great pleasure to welcome you to the program, Dr. Bani SAN.
Yeah, thank you, Prof, for having me. Good morning.
Okay, Dr. Bani, first let's start with this proposal about salary increase. Now, the RAMFAC says political office holders have not had a salary increase since 2008, and that what they currently earn is inadequate. Now, the main argument is that the times have changed. The times have changed. The naira has been devalued about 2, 3 times. Inflation today is over 23%. So if anyone, say a minister, was earning 990,000 naira about 2005, 2006, that would be less than $600 today. And we all go to the market. So do you think that the Revenue Mobilization Commission has a case by saying, look, these salaries have to be adjusted? They've tried it twice in the past. The people shut it down. Now they want to try it again.
Yeah, thank you once again, as I said earlier. The reasons advanced by RAMFAC for increase of salaries of political and office holders sounds logical. If you take into consideration the time the last review was done, that is 2008. I believe that the inflationary rate have actually eroded whatever value is attached to the salaries of these public office holders. And they are right with the issue of erosion of value and the time. But the problem with this review at this point is the timing. And then you are now also referring to only one exclusive group, and that is the office and political office holders. There are so many Nigerians, so many, the ones in the industry of medical industry, the teachers in Nigeria, the civil servants, the Nigerian workers, generally, what is their salary? What's their take-home pay every month? And then we are talking about inflation. We are talking about you remove subsidy and then there is increased hardship. We are talking about the poverty, general poverty level in this country. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about unemployment. I mean, these issues are what the managers of the economy should pay adequate attention in order to enhance welfare of the citizens. Nigerians are really undergoing very heinous suffering at this point in time. I receive calls virtually every.
Hello, Dr. Bani. Are you with us? Hello, Dr. Bani.
Day from those that know me, even people that don't even know, in the account number, asking for just a stipend 3 days. And there are those that general poverty is alarming. A segment of that population to enhance their salary in order to other members of that particular country, then you are creating, you are becoming insensitive, in that consideration. And of course, people have a right to react to. I'm saying the timing and then the exclusivity of the consideration to certain segment and not general is actually what will, stir some level of anger against such act at this point in time. Do the politicians themselves, I mean, the office holders and public office holders, really require this to be done at this time? If you ask me, I don't think so. But the truth of the matter, as I said earlier, is it sounds logical because the value of salary have actually been eroded. If you look at what happened in Singapore, when Lee Kuan Yew came, one thing he did that actually put the country to where it is today was increasing salary of everyone and making sure you have no reason whatsoever to engage in corruption and stealing. He made sure that every civil servant, everyone in the public service was earning what you call living wage. Now, if there is any corruption found in you, you go in for it because you are well paid. But if you see what civil servants are said to be earning, I mean, what workers, I mean, people, public office holders, even politicians. Imagine the president of a country of our size, any 1.5 million. But I know that he doesn't depend on that salary and all that. But the amount of money he's said to be earning every month is so small compared to the position he occupies, compared to the economic buoyancy of the country, considering many other factors. That amount of money as a monthly stipend for the president is really, really inadequate. But does it depend on that salary? That's the issue people are saying. Does it, because there are allowances and so many other things and so many other areas where the president can live, on the economy of the country and not necessarily on that salary. So looking at the logic of LAMFAC, it makes sense to say, let's review. But are you reviewing without reviewing others? Are you only considering the political office holders without considering the general workers in the country? That is actually what is causing the anger, presently with that review. Yes.
Okay. If I get you right, Dr. Obano, what you are saying is that a person like the president, if it's free on Nigeria's account, some of these other political office holders, they stay in free accommodation, official quarters. Chairmen of committees in the National Assembly, they are given official quarters, which also translate into benefits. When they travel, they collect extra code. They may even travel for 1 week and then say they are going to stay for 2 weeks so that they can get more extra code. Something that does not exist perhaps in some other countries in the world. We have seen a former first lady of the United States saying that in the White House, the place is run like a hotel. If you eat what you are not supposed to eat, you pay for it. Whether you are president or the wife of the president does not matter. However, from what you have said, you say it's logical, timing is wrong, and all of that. Okay, will it make better sense if they increase the salaries of everybody, including cleaners, including secretaries, yes, including ordinary workers within the system at all levels?
Yes, I want to correct an impression. I don't know if a chairman of committees in the House, or other House of Reps or Senate staying in free accommodation. I think they have abolished issue of free accommodation to members of the parliament. And I'm not also sure that most of them also take, they want to stay 1 week and they take maybe allowances for 2 weeks. No, I'm not making that general, allegation. What I'm only saying is that, look, based upon the fact that the last review was done in 2008, if you now advance a logical reasoning that it is important we look at their salaries once again, because the erosion is so much on the value of our naira. You are making a logical explanation and reason for that. But look at it. Will it be right for you to exclusively consider only a segment in that review? When teachers are crying, when professors in the university are crying that the take-home pay is so small, when those in the health sector are complaining, when teachers, when civil servants generally, because we just, finished altercation on the issue of salary increase, 70,000, which not all the states are still, complying with. So if you are reviewing the salary of political office holders at the time without reviewing the salary of others in the country, in the system, who are buying from the same market, then you are not being considered. You are being a bit insensitive, because already Nigerians see political office holders as people who control the resources. And most time, because of the weakness of the institution, they may have what you call unhindered access, to some of the districts. So it is important you now make that consideration to go around, not only exclusively reserved to the office of people you want to review their salaries at this point in time. And then you must also take into consideration the economic situation. There is some general poverty. There is the issue of unemployment. There is issue of inflation, the removal of oil subsidy, and the attendant hardship, that is actually inflicting everyone in the country. So if you now exclusively, want to do it with these same people who people see as having inflicted the hardship, sort of, so to speak, at this time, then you are being regarded as being insensitive. So I'm saying, if you want to do this salary review, then it must be holistic. But in doing that also, you must consider sustainability and the issue of capacity of the economy to accommodate such general review. because sustainability and capacity is also key. How affordable can we engage in this salary increase at this juncture in the light of economic situation? So you must take all that into consideration if you want to do general review. But if I am in the position to advise, I will ask for a suspension of this salary review at this point, because the economy itself is really crying until a more suitable time for you to advance this reason, which you have advanced recently, and then go ahead and do the review. But for now, Nigerians will really, really be very angry if only exclusively politicians are considered without considering other in the country. Look, people are, even the pensioners are crying. A lot of people have been owed pension. Those in the military, those who have served the country, their fatherland, most of them have been owed. And so, are we not really, really, being a bit insensitive in taking only one segment and then leaving all others who are also crying that they require
Okay.
review in everything that concerns them? That's my take. Yes.
Okay, I get your point. But
Yes.
Ramfak is saying that in proposing this, is following its constitutional mandate. That is a constitutional and legal thing for it to do.
Yes, they have the legal responsibility, and I mean also they have the legal backing to do whatever they want to do with regards to review. And unfortunately, they are not the one that review the salary of civil servants. They are not. I think theirs is only for office, public and office holders. So they are doing what the constitution mandates them to do. But the point is that, is it convenient at this point? That is the question that everyone will be asking. And then in light of the fact that generally people are suffering, and you are now considering only a segment of the populace, in order to increase their salary. More so when people see them as very privileged, would they not really feel that you are insensitive? They are doing their mandate. I agree with them. But this is where the president now comes in and says, look, Ramfak, I want you to suspend this, because this time is not the best of time for you to consider that increase. The president can stop them. The populace also can complain, which is what they are doing now, airing their view, and Ramfa can sit in their board and say, look, what is the reaction of Nigeria for this particular review we want to do, even though we are constitutionally mandated to do this. But look at the reactions of Nigeria. Look at the reaction or even of the of the country, whom I think should be able to say something, to say, look, for now, it may not look suitable to begin to consider exclusively the politicians and public office holder without corresponding look into other areas of citizens. I mean, other citizens also who are complaining about the hardship in the of the economy. So it is important that that is done. So my take is that they have right under the constitution to do whatever they are doing or whatever they are contemplating to do. But is it feasible at this time? Is it timely? Are we doing it under a time that is really, really permissible and that people will not react to it? And people are really, really reacting. I saw all the reactions of well, people will say the opposition and not that, but in the necessary opposition, even the Nigerian labor workers, I say Labor Congress, are saying, look, it is not right. We managed to get 70, and that 70 we are not even being paid. And the inflationary rate of that 70,000 cannot even take, can't buy anything, can't buy a bag of rice. And you are now considering the politicians themselves, who they think are the managers of the economy, who may have put them in the economic problem they're having. So it is something that we need to look at once again from the side of the presidency, from the side of the political office holders, from the side of even the politicians themselves, and say, look, for now, suspend this particular exercise. That is what I think, sir.
Well, in all of this controversy that has been generated, does it surprise you that members who will be affected, political office holders, who will be the main direct beneficiaries, we have not
Yes.
had a word from them? They seem to be very comfortable with it, and they seem to disregard the controversy. Whereas in at least two other countries, we have had public office holders saying, "Oh, we'll take a salary cut because of the hardship in the country." But here in Nigeria, it looks like public office holders, just want more, and they don't care what the people think. Is this something about the character of the Nigerian uh, man in the corridors of power?
I want to bring this to your notice. I don't think the president is presently in the country, and then the National Assembly, they are on recess. They are on break at this time. So I think that it's something that may be addressed, that will really catch their attention immediately they resume. They will have to make a pronouncement whether they are really in support of the review. And as I said earlier, the president is not in the country. And this thing just happened last week or this week. This thing came up this week. So I think that the silence may be explainable, that they have not, come together to look at it and then make a pronouncement. I think that something will happen, in the coming weeks. A word must come from the presidency concerning this review. And I think also that the leadership of the National Assembly will actually make a pronouncement whether they're really in support or they are against it. But presently they are on recess. So one has to excuse them on that. One has also to excuse the presidency because the president is presently not in country.
Well, you said earlier that members of the National Assembly, chairmen of committees, no longer live in official accommodation. Yes,
Yes.
there was a policy to monetize that, so they still get perks or allowances in that regard, and they write free cars at the expense of Nigerians. This is what Nigerians are talking about,
Those
and
cars
that's
are
why
paid for. Those cars are paid for. They deduct
from
their
their own
salary.
pockets, from their own pockets.
No. What happened is that every month.
At what value? At what value?
I
At
don't
what
know what
value?
value, but what I'm saying is not free. They pay for it, because every month they deduct their salary, in order to, pay for the car they have given to them. I know about that. I'm talking from experience, sir.
But Nigerians say, well, they will give them a car that is purchased for 150 million, and then they will
Yes.
deduct 25 million. Does that amount to payment? So there's this distrust, this gap between the people and those who lead them. But very
I agree
quickly,
with you.
let's go to the second subject, which is about the revenue allocation formula. RAMFAC is also proposing that it will adjust the revenue allocation formula. The specific new formula it wants to adopt, we have not been told. The last time that revenue allocation formula was adjusted was in 1992, with the federal government getting 52.68, states getting 26.72, and local councils getting 20.60. Now,
Yes.
Professor Waleke was saying the other day that it's not actually 52.68 that the federal government gets, that it gets about 48. The remaining 4%, there's also a distribution formula for that, like some kind of dedicated account. But whatever, the federal government gets more than the states and the local councils. But we now see that increasingly the states have more responsibilities. What do you think about revenue formula? Is that also a matter of wrong timing, or it's long overdue in that regard?
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. I think for those who have been canvassing for proper fiscal federalism, this is a piece of news that is clearly cheering. The the people at the grassroots are really suffering. Issue of basic infrastructures, decaying, and that's why you see urban migration. People are leaving from the villages, to the town in order to eke out a living because the basic infrastructures are not there. And the money that are given to the state and local government is not enough to really ensure development of basic infrastructure. So it's really, really very commendable to this kind of news that there is a consideration to look at the review of the allocation once again and possibly increase allocation to the local government, which is closer to the people, and the state that are also closer to the people. Especially in states where the governors themselves understand their responsibility. Because one thing is that there are some states that are collected even with increase in allocation recently because of this subsidy removal, and nothing is being seen in those states. But there are states that are working. I am presently in Enugu. I must tell you that I am very happy with the state of progress that Enugu state government is making under the leadership of Mba. I'm also very happy with the state of progress that is being made in Abia State, where I come from, under the leadership of Dr. Alex Oti. I mean, there are other states where the governors are really, really using the resources that are being allocated monthly in order to work for the people. But there are majority that are actually still squandering the riches of the people in a misapplication of resources. So for considering that review at this time, I think this one is very timely. I can't consider this being insensitive. The point is that the government of the majority of the people reside at those tiers of levels of governance, and that is state and local government. And that is that adequate consideration. If there is any area adequate consideration should be paid to, is allocation of resources to the state and to the local government in order to develop basic infrastructure. We should tackle issue of health. We should tackle the issue of education. We should tackle the issue of agriculture, sir. We should tackle the issue of roads, tackle the issue of light, and all that, at that level, in order to encourage development and economic empowerment. So it's something that is a cherry news, and I'm happy that is being done at this. It's timely and it's something that is worthy of commendation.
Okay, I get your point, but how about the issue of fiscal responsibility? The Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007 is not restricted to the federal government. States also have responsibility about fiscal responsibility in the area of allegiance to the law. However,
Yes.
people are saying that if you give these state governors, these state governments more money and these local governments, that what is the guarantee? You have mentioned Enugu, Abia, okay, and you said and other states. But if you look at all the states generally, how many of them really can you really point to are engaged in productive activity? Most of them are known as centers of consumption, engage in frivolous spending, conspicuous consumption, and yet we say the federal government should give them more money. Should there be a need for guarantees that if that additional allocation occurs, fiscal federalism, yes, what is fair, equitable, just, is there any guarantee that the governors will spend the money judiciously?
I must say that the people have a big responsibility in ensuring good governance at their various levels. I mean, I'm talking about those at the state and local government. Holding government and those who are in governance accountable is very important. We did it in Abia. We saw that over the years there was this misgovernance and bad leadership, that had been mismanaging our resources. And we all came together and said, look, we have to change the narrative. We have to change our history. We have to change our narratives. And we did see somebody in the person of Dr. Alex, and we went in for it. And thank God, everything, including God himself, was in our favor. And that's how he emerged. And he's doing something we're saying physical. So the people owe a responsibility to really monitor what goes on in their various in their states and local government, ensuring good governance at that level is important. Then secondly, I also think that the agencies, like economic financial crime, EFCC, must also look at their mode of operation in terms of looking at those monies that goes to those states, whether they're utilizing them for the purposes for which the monies are actually provided. So it's important that that monitoring comes from them to ensure compliance with the laws. We must also ensure that even at the federal level, they should monitor what goes on at the state level in terms of monies we are giving. Every month, this increased allocation is given to them. What are they doing, in order to help governance at that level? So the federal government themselves should also be interested. The Minister of Finance that give this allocation must be interested. There must be a way we monitor and know whether we are doing what we are supposed to be doing in order to give good governance to the people who have elected the politicians into public office. So if we don't do that, then we are abdicating our responsibility, and we have no reason being there as those who have been elected by the people. So it's important that layers of monitoring, checks and balances, including the institutions, the State House of Assembly themselves, who were elected to checkmate these governors, they must do their work. The judiciary must also pronounce those who are corrupt to be corrupt when they are found to be very corrupt. So I think that everyone has a responsibility. All of us have a responsibility of monitoring the system in order to ensure that good governance is given to citizens of the country. That is what goes on in developed economy. They don't sit down and watch their leaders, squander their riches away. That is how it does. It does work in all those places. So we too must begin to ensure that we look after the resources that are given to our leaders, monitor how they are being spent, monitor the expenditure level, monitor how these guys are, is spending our money, so that if there is any mismanagement anywhere, we raise alarm. and trigger the system in order to get them arrested and, when they leave power and all that. So I think that all of us have a responsibility. We can't be running away, Japa, and be going abroad and seeing that these countries have been made, safe by their own person, by their own citizens. And we feel comfortable there. Then meanwhile, in our own country, we are not interested in what goes on. We should be interested in what goes on in our local government. We should be interested in what goes on at our state level. I did it. I left Lagos and said, look, I'm returning home in order to ensure that it's good governance in my state. Over the years, we started from 2015 until finally God answered us in 2023. So every other person in the country must begin to look towards where they come from and see that there is good governance going on in those places. So that's my take with regards to that. I agree with you that we need to monitor and we need to actually receive a guarantee that when these allocations are increased, that there will be a corresponding responsibility on the part of leadership to really give good governance. It's very important that we'll also we monitor to ensure due compliance.
Okay, Dr. Bani, at this point, let's just take a short commercial break and then we'll come back quickly. And when we return, we're going to allow others who have joined us in this conversation to also make their observations known. I see that Dr. Pascal Bohimen, who is an economist and has written over 60 academic papers on this area of public finance, governance, economics, yes, and all of that.
Yes,
I will invite him later, to make his contribution. And if others would like to join us, so that we can have a more robust contribution. Let's take this quick commercial break. Welcome back from that commercial break. Our guest is still Dr. Monday Ubani, SAN, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And we've been looking at two issues. The proposal by RAMFAC to increase the salaries of political public office holders, and also to review the revenue allocation formula among the three tiers of government, namely the federal government, the states, and the local councils. And if you want to join this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051. You can send us WhatsApp messages on 0909 916 4403, or you send us messages online on social media at City 1051. Very quickly, Dr. Monday Ubani, thank you very much for staying with us and for your insights. As I said before we took this break, we'll now allow others to participate. And I see right up there, Dr. Pascal Ebohimen's hand up. Dr. Ebohimen, please.
Good morning, Dr. Ruben Abati.
Good morning, sir.
Just apology, because I just woke up when I saw this invitation. I had to quickly put on my shirt, and I've just joined you. Yeah, the two topics are very exciting and interesting at this point in time. First, talking about increase in the remuneration and the benefits of politicians, particularly those who are elected into offices. I don't see anything wrong about review of salaries of politicians, but what is important is that when there is a call for review of salaries and benefits of politicians, particularly those elected to offices, national level, state level, or local government level, there should be corresponding increase in the salary and benefits of workers all over the country. That I feel is important. But if it is not necessary to do that at this point in time because of the rather unfortunate and uncertainty in the economic system in Nigeria, one would have thought that by now the National Assembly members should be thinking about what they need to do to cut down this extravagance in government, particularly among public office holders. Why am I saying so? Because it is important for Nigerians to know that leading by example is important. If this group of people decide to increase their pay and the rest remain constant, and yet they all go to the same market to buy things, one wonders what kind of example we are showing. Because it is important for us as Nigerians that service leadership of having to take public office is a selfless service. And Nigeria must be ready to serve selflessly. the money they currently have is enough to live, but the current level of what I call the pay system in Nigeria is just enough to live. What the politicians need to do is to place priority on things that are important to them, taking care of their family, feeding, and living on whatever they receive. But honestly, if I'm in a position to do that, I will not talk about review at this point in time, because generally the economy is so bad, and people are complaining. There is no food, there is no means of livelihood. They cannot pay school fees. So the legislature will be talking about reforms where they will have to improve generally on increasing the productivity of our Nigerian people, so that Nigerians can be more productive and therefore have more money to take care of themselves, and spend less on frivolities and living a extravagant life. For me, like the book I wrote recently, we should be talking about leadership, the right type of leadership within Nigeria, from profligacy to servitude. It's all about service. Leadership is about service. The core function of leadership is service to the people. Unless you are ready to serve selflessly, with sacrifice that go with it, then don't go into public service. That's my position ever. So for some of us in Nigeria, we are ready to serve even without being paid. Because many of us have gotten to a level where we have money, we have investment, particularly those who are serving in government. So if you don't have means of life, you don't have an investment, you don't have businesses of your own, then you should not go into public service. In other words, don't see public service as a way of enriching your pocket or becoming rich. That should not be the purpose. The purpose is to agree with your people to provide services, to provide leadership without taking much. So review is good if they can do it across board, but unless the economy improves in terms of increasing the productive base of the economy, not just rely only on the monolithic oil revenue, they need to focus on that. First thing first, let them build up the economy, increase the productive base of Nigerians, let people be more productive, improve on the non-formal sector, they improve the skills level of entrepreneurs in the rural areas so that they can become more productive. And when they are more productive, you have more money going to their market, to their pocket. And so even those of us who are at the higher level, as way to speak, we're already comfortable. Many of us have houses. How many houses will you have? So what do they spend the money on? We're talking about the legislators, those occupying the public offices. What do they spend their money on other than feeding? And many of them already have their children well educated. So I think review is good across board, but first thing first, let us build the economy, Nigerian economy. That's what I have on that. We still talking on this, or we move on to the second, because I heard him talking about revenue allocation. Can I say something there?
Yes.
Okay.
Briefly.
Yes, on resources allocation. You see, first thing first, there must be devolution of powers, right, between the federal, state, and the local. We emphasize on local government. There must be real local government reforms. And what do I mean? If you implement true federalism, give powers to the local government, employ the right people. What do I mean? Devolution of legislative and political powers, apart from fiscal responsibility or fiscal devolution. For instance, the election at the local government should not be controlled by federal or state. They should have their own system, what I call the bicameral system, involving all the various stakeholders to decide on their future, right? And whatever money that comes from the federal government, they should be in the position to develop what I call the needs, carry out the needs assessment of the various communities, right? Carry out a plan, a strategic plan, 3 to 5 years, and decide on how the money should be allocated within that local government. And then get the right people elected, people who are competent, with the skills and the competencies to deliver, that plan for the local government. What matters is getting the right people to execute the strategy. There's no point pretending about it. Where the state have to interfere, where the federal government have to interfere in the election of those to manage the local government, that's where the problem lies. Once the criteria for selection comes and the devolution of power within the ambit of true federalism, get the right people elected to the local government, give them the freedom to act, then of course Nigeria will become better.
Okay, Doctor.
That's my view on that. And of course there should be delegation of responsibility between the federal, state, and local government as to what they should do. Area of conflict should be removed. Area of collaboration between the state and local government in development of infrastructure should be streamlined. Then Nigeria will move forward. Yes.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you very much indeed. Yes. Okay, I see a message here from Akin Ogunlade. He says, "Good morning, Dr. Abati. At a time when the majority of Nigerians are grappling with rising inflation, unemployment, and widespread poverty, increasing the salaries of political office holders appears insensitive and ill-timed. Such a move risks deepening the disconnect between leaders and citizens, fueling public resentment and eroding trust in governance. Rather than prioritizing personal benefits, political leaders are expected to demonstrate sacrifice, channel resources toward policies that cushion economic hardship, and show solidarity with the people they deserve. They serve. That's from Mr. Akin Ogunlade. Well, I come back to you, Dr. Obani. Two comments there, Dr. Obani. Dr. Ebohime has stressed the point about service, that holding a public political office should be about service, not about self-promotion.
Yes, sir.
And then he talked about local government reforms. And it shouldn't just be about fiscal devolution. There should be what you call it shouldn't just be about political devolution. There should be fiscal devolution, giving people at the local council levels to make their own choices, their own needs assessment, and all of that. And then you have Akin Ogunlade talking about sacrifice, which I think is more or less the same thing as service. And, Dr. Bohime clearly agrees with you that the timing may appear very wrong, except, as you said, they will increase salaries for everybody, all of us.
This debate is very necessary at this point, and more ideas are flowing. Even there are those who will advocate, like, look, if you're talking about physical federalism, we should be talking about states and local government actually generating these resources themselves and paying a percentage to the federal. That is what they consider proper fiscal federalism, and not money coming from top to the low. You take from the low, and then you now take it up, and then now begin to redistribute. They are saying, look, why can't states take charge of all their natural resources themselves? Generate it, raise it, and then pay certain percentage. That is another angle to issue of fiscal federalism. I agree with him that there are certain persons in the country, many of them, who are willing to serve Nigeria free of charge. Now, what difference does 1.5 million make to somebody like Asiwaju? Asiwaju is consider him a multi-billionaire in all ramification. And so what will a 1.5, or you want to pay him maybe 2.5, or even pay him 5 million, make as a difference to him? He doesn't require that money at this time. So what people are saying, there are other people that require consideration, review of what they collect home at the end of the month. These politicians themselves, most of them are self-made, are already made. They are very rich. So whether you add any 1 naira to this, it doesn't make any difference. So there are those that require their salaries to be reviewed, look at their own side and all that. Much as also I agree that what people are being paid, as public officers, imagine a minister earning less than $1 million naira. Most of it is 900,000 naira they earn a month. That can sustain a minister. If not that there are other areas which is really not legal, where they make their money. That 900,000 naira cannot sustain. But if you really want to run a transparent economy where there is accountability, let's agree at the appropriate time to pay public officers what they are entitled to in terms of salary, and then make sure that if any of them steals, then they must go in for it. That is what Singapore did. That is what Lee Kuan Yew did in Singapore. And that is why today the country is run transparently and all that. Let's be sincere. what people are being paid as public office. If you hear their salary, I know it makes no sense, but they have other areas which is illegal, where they make them, which is supposed not to be a proper way of running an economy. Let's pay them their due salary, but let's ensure that institutions are very strong enough not to allow stealing from any source whatsoever. That is where we can get this country running very well. Then I agree with him. There are many persons who may want to come into governance without asking for salary. That man said he has investment, he has other things. I want to be a governor. If tomorrow God gives me an opportunity, I may go there and say I'm not accepting any salary. I will not want any salary, because the kind of thing people will be giving you will be enough even to sustain you. The kind of gift people will be bringing to you as a governor, because you are the one allocating the resources. So what salary are you going to live on? So it's important that those who are really willing be given an opportunity to run their various local government, run their states, and even run this country, and they're ready to make sacrifices. So sacrificial, service is what we are looking for from those who are angling to be in position of power in Nigeria. And Nigerians will always be in tandem with such persons. When they come in, they say we are ready to make sacrifices. If people are suffering, I want to suffer with them. If people are not eating, I want to be hungry with them. You don't just eat bread and eat agbado with them only when you are campaigning. The moment you become a leader, you distance yourself from them and all that. That is hypocrisy. We want leaders that will identify with the poverty of the people and feel them and know how to alleviate those poverty and that suffering, that the people are undergoing when they were campaigning and when they have come into power. This is the kind of leadership, that all of us should be angling for. And I also understand what the other writer said about rising unemployment. And then at this point in time, this is not the most important time for us to consider this review of salaries. But for allocation, because of grassroots, because of people-friendly policy, because of people-focused policy, because we deal with people, I will actually advance the argument that the review of allocation should be done at this point in time in order to give more resources to the state and to the various local governments in the country.
Okay, very quickly. We've been talking all day about public office holders, RAMFAC, which is, dealing with an aspect of the public sector. Where
Yes.
is the private sector in this conversation? Because even when, the national new minimum wage was agreed upon, 70,000
Yes.
and all of that, it was just all about people, working within government and all of that. But the private sector, nobody is actually talking about how that itself is enforced within the private sector. There are many private sector employers who are still paying their workers peanuts, or who do not even pay at all, or who
Yes.
pay when they like. And yet, all of us are in this same market called
Yes.
Nigeria.
Yes.
When we go to the market, nobody asks whether you are private sector or public sector. The private sector is so just silent. And those who want to make profit are exploiting the workers.
The workers, there are those also who operate in the economy and they are also suffering with their businesses, because the economic situation in the country is not something that is really conducive. It's also affecting those who are in the private sector. But I want to say this, with regards to those in the private sector, it's contractual. You enter into an agreement with a worker, with an employee. This is how much I'm going to pay you. And I don't think there is any regulatory framework that guides, employers. Whatever you are going to decide, is usually between the employees association and the employers themselves. Those who are in the employment in any particular company will form a union and enter into negotiation about increase in package of welfare, issue of salary, and agree. This is how much. And if you don't agree, you have a right to opt out. Are you following me? There is no such, legal framework that binds those in the private sector that you must pay this. But most times they follow up what is actually agreed at the national level. Oh, this is what minimum wage should be. So some employers want to follow up in paying that. But there are those who are not bound, because there is no law that says private sectors must pay 70, and if they fail to pay, there are consequences. There are no such consequences because it's contractual. The union will negotiate and say, we want this. If they don't have it, then they have a right to opt out. So it's contractual. But also, we must also know that they operate in a very difficult economic, situation. Those who are in the industry, if they tell you what they see, I mean those who are in manufacturing industry, if they tell you what they see in terms of tax, in terms of light, in terms of cost of labor and cost of raw materials and all that, so to also run their own companies, they are also really suffering. But there are those who are making money and also really not paying workers what they're entitled to. So we must balance it. There are those also struggling to survive. There are those who are doing well but refuse to pay what we call living wage to their workers. But most importantly, I want to say, in terms of legal perspective, it is contractual. You have a right not to work in any company where they offer you a salary that you feel is not sufficient to sustain you. You can opt out. But I think we must look towards that direction too as a government, whether what workers are being paid in the private sector is a living wage or not a living wage. Government has a right to do an oversight function over it. Yes.
Well, Dr. Obani, well, there is international labor organization conventions to which
Correct.
Nigeria is a signatory. But you are saying
That's correct.
those who work in the private sector, there is no
Yes.
legal framework for them, so they can take it or leave it. In a country where you know that employment opportunities are very few,
Yes.
unemployment rate is very high, over
That's
50%,
right.
regardless of whatever rebasing they may say they have done in that regard. So you are just saying private sector people, you are on your own. Is that what you are saying?
No. What I'm saying is that presently, even the minimum wage we talk about in the country is only applicable, most importantly, under the legal framework to those who work in public institutions, for the state government and for the federal. I don't see most times when the private sectors are, being made compulsorily to pay whatever has been enacted as a minimum wage. And then, okay, there is also a prescription of penalty. There is none. Presently, as you said, there are certain workers that are earning less than the 70,000 naira in private sector, and there are no consequences. Are you following me, sir? Because, as I said, it's contractual. Most time, it is the union in that company that enter into negotiation with the employer and say, look, okay, this salary you are paying is not, and you have to put this in, or else we can down too. We can, we can do this, we can go on strike. And most time they get what they want by that, it's negotiation, it's bargaining.
Yeah.
Hello? Dr. Bani, so that we just wrap up on this very quickly. You know that
process. So that bargain, there are even companies that do not allow union.
I was going to say
that do not allow the existence of union. That do not allow the existence of union. I know about it. I have handled many.
Hello. Looks like your phone is ringing.
Quickly,
you cannot
can I just
have
chip
any
in
union
first?
here. Any bargaining power. You don't have any bargaining power. Yes.
Okay. Hello. It looks like your phone is interfering
have
with
any bargaining power because they are in a meeting. Yeah, somebody is calling. Somebody is trying to call directly and all that. I'm very sorry about that.
Anytime somebody calls, it interferes with the signal.
Yeah, okay. Doctor, can I just chip in a little here?
Okay, Dr. Eboyima, please keep it brief because we have
quickly.
to round up very quickly.
We must put the salary you pay in the private sector in context. The private sector is very amorphous. We have private sector in terms of the financial saving industry like the banks, the manufacturing, some of the big conglomerates and multinational. But we also have those who are coming like the Indians and the rest of them. So
I'll call you later. I'm on the program.
The salary they pay in these various contexts, will vary. But what is important is that what matters is not the basic salary you pay, whether 70, 60, or 50, because there's what they call the total reward concept, which is a composite of so many variables put together. And I give you that by example. I operate secondary school. I'm a school system. Now, where my school is located, what they pay as school fees, despite the high standard of the school, is something to write home about. And for you to be able to attract good teachers and pay them about 70,000 naira, which is the minimum wage, it's now impossible. So what do? I built the accommodation, the hostel, invited teachers, quality teachers from everywhere. I said, look, take off the hostel. You don't pay for rent. You don't pay for water. You don't pay for electricity in terms of backup like generator. But I will pay you below 70,000 naira because you have to pay according to the school fees paid by the parents. And they accepted. So when you go to some industries like where I retired from, like parastatals of government, they are not really public, but they are not private. What obtains there again, it's not unionized. It's a JCC, Joint Consultative Committee. There's a kind of agreement between employees and the management, and they know that they have to build an escalator as inflation goes up. But what is very important is that the private sector in Nigeria is not developed yet, because banks are not doing what they're supposed to do to empower some of us who want to go to the private sector. Now, the few private sector, they pay what they can pay because the ability to pay and sustain payment is very critical in salary administration. So private sector company, many of them operate according to best practices. They have in place a performance management system, target setting, and so you are paid according to the target you achieve, and even the benefit that go with it also go with it. So they really don't have problem in the private sector or like the public sector, where it's clean payment, which is cash. If it's less than 70,000, they really cannot meet up with the inflation and the high cost of living in the country. I think for me, there's no more problem with the private sector. The only thing I expect the private sector to do is to come out with clear policies, how the banks should support the many of us who want to go into the private sector so that the private sector can grow. It's not growing as I expect in this country. If they can grow very well and the productive level of the economy improves, then of course, people will, and also I want to advise workers, multiple stream of income. People can go into writing books like I do. People can go into small gardening by their houses. They can do a few other things to earn more money. So that will complement whatever the employer can pay at this point in time. But unless you improve the productive base of the economy, improve the infrastructures, not you expect a private sector will set up a borehole, we construct a road to the factory, we have to import some of the raw material at, you know what that means, the exchange rate. So before you know it, the selling price of a product will be so high that people cannot even afford. And if people are not buying the product from the company, how can they increase the salary of their workers? So these are the issues. It requires a careful balancing, between the supply and the demand side to ensure that salaries, optimal levels of salaries are paid to workers, and they also approve what they call total rewards, where other benefits, pecuniary benefits, non-pecuniary benefits are provided so that the worker, the average worker, will be happy. That is the way I look at it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Well, Dr. Monday Ubani, we should begin to summarize now.
Yes.
Dr. Ibrahim is talking about total reward concept. Well, how many private employers in Nigeria follow that concept? How many categories of workers get other benefits? Maybe a small fraction in a company. How many of these foreign companies operating in Nigeria treat their staff fairly when they in fact they treat them like slaves, and those ones don't even have any avenue for complaint in any way?
Yes. No, this is where the Ministry of Labor comes in. The Ministry of Labor must play that supervisory role in ensuring that the private sector also treat workers in a very decent manner, because as you rightly pointed out, ILO has a convention that deals with workers' welfare, treatment, fair treatment, and just employment. So it is important that Ministry of Works live up to their billing and expectation in taking care of Nigerian workers. But most importantly is that the economic situation in the country must really be made good for those who are in the manufacturing industry, for those in the private sector. The SMEs, or those who are in the small scale industry, they must operate in a very conducive atmosphere, and that is making available the basic infrastructure that make cost of production to be low. The energy sector, we are still grappling with it. We are still grappling with the issue of bad road. We're still grappling with the issue of railway system. There are so many things that are supposed to be done by the government that makes those in the private sector to run efficiently and provide employment for over 80 or 90% of. It's not government does not need to employ person. Government, it is the private sector that actually runs an economy. And all the countries, the developed economy, it is the private sector. But here, people are expecting to be employed in the federal and state this and other institutions, which is wrong. So, but you must make the environment to be conducive for those in the private sector to really employ large members of the society in the employment pool. So it's important we encourage that. Then we must take care of our workers. It's important. If somebody is working for you and that is where you are making your money, for those that work for you, try and take care of them. Make the environment also conducive for them. This is what this man has said. He provided accommodation for those who are, but he may not be able to afford that 70, but he makes them not to pay for certain things and all that. And that's why they're willing to work and all that. If you treat workers very well, they also be able to give you a high level of productivity. That is my take in all this. So it's important those who are responsible to monitor and ensure that workers are really taken care of and their welfare is a top priority, must ensure that they do their work in accordance with the law. That would be my final take on this discussion this morning, Dr. Ruben.
MBA Annual General Conference.
That's correct.
So how is that going? Yeah, it started
with this morning
yesterday
we're doing
with a dinner.
yes
Continues today.
started this morning because there is going to be a health walk for 5 kilometers.
I thought there was a
on
dinner
Monday.
yesterday.
No. What happened here? I think it's there's going to be cocktail today. There's going to be cocktail
okay.
today.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be cocktail today. Yes, by the CJ of the state and all that. So it's going to be a wonderful. They call it a stand out. The team is stand out and stand tall. Stand out and stand tall. Malema from South Africa is going to be the keynote speaker on Monday. President Obasanjo is going to be the chairman of that plenary and all that. And there are so many breakout sessions, so many opportunities, networking. Those who have not seen their classmates for many years and all that. Enugu is really ready for lawyers. Over 10,000 lawyers will be in Enugu for one solid week. And it's going to be a global jamboree, time of networking, time of learning, time of resting, and time of many things, in the legal profession, Dr. Ruben Abati. We are going to miss you as also a lawyer in this country.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Monday Ubani. We've been speaking with Dr. Monday Ubani, SAN, one of Nigeria's most respected human rights lawyers and activists on two issues. At the heart of the national question, there are questions about how resources are shared in a country where millions are struggling daily. Dr. Ubani, thank you very much for your time and insights. And to all our listeners, thank you for engaging with us. If you missed the
very much,
show,
sir.
you can watch the replay on our YouTube channel at City 1051. And when you do so, don't forget to leave comments and also subscribe. And don't forget also to join us next Saturday at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks with Ruben Abati. I'm Ruben Abati. It's been a great show.